fellow Vistage member and the host of the Exit Coach radio show, which is available on iTunes, and I'm your moderator today. The webinar title today is Your Mission Statement Dying on the Wall? You've committed valuable time and energy identifying your company's mission, vision, and values, but are these declarations actually improving your culture, enhancing customer interactions, and having a positive impact on the world around you, or are they merely taking up space on your walls? Well, today you're going to learn and discover ways to determine if your current mission, vision, and values are actually helping or hurting your organization to become more cohesive, productive, and profitable, and you'll learn how to align your culture around your authentic purpose. Our speaker is Jackie Dryden, the Chief Purpose Architect of Savage Brands. Jackie's leading a purpose revolution. The book she co-authored with Bethany Andel, Getting Your Head Out of Your Bottom Line and Build Your Brand on Purpose, is guiding business leaders to reconnect with their true strengths through the power of purpose. Jackie serves as the Chief Purpose Architect of Savage Brands. She's appeared on NBC, CBS, and Fox, is a recurring guest on TV and radio, and she's featured in publications across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie Dryden.
Oh, thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it. And happy Friday to everyone. I've never had anybody be mad at Friday, so hopefully we can keep that going here. Appreciate all of you for joining me today. I'm sure some of you it's morning, and some of you it might have passed into afternoon if you're on the East Coast. But I wanted to give you a little overview of what we're going to be talking about here over the next 40 minutes or so. I'm going to be sure to leave some time at the end because I hope that the most robust portion of this webinar will be when you have the ability to ask questions and we can have some dialogue together. So we're going to begin by taking a short journey to helping your organization stand out by identifying and connecting with what you stand for. And although some of the things that we're going to talk about may be old hat to some of you, you may say, oh, we've already been there, we've done that, we've got a purpose, we've got our mission and values, and we're ready to roll. I still think there will be parts of this in the beginning that are very helpful to you being able to take a sincere look at how it is infiltrating into your organization and how you're actually using it. And for those of you that don't already have that set in your company, there's going to be a little bit of seeding here into the way that we look at these sets of phrases and what they can actually do for your company. So we're going to start by discussing a common phrase that most companies claim sets them apart and aligns their culture, something most companies are very proud to display. But the question is it actually working for you or merely taking up space on your wall? I'm going to share information with you that may on the surface seem obvious, but I hope I connect these together in a way that can open your eyes to new possibilities and ideas that can propel your organization to new heights. We're going to begin with 3 very short polls. They're yes or no answers. Hopefully you can answer them just in 1 second or less, because it'll give me the idea of who's out there and where you are in this process and just a little feel for what's your current state. So there's going to be a poll that's going to be sent to you, and the poll question is basically this. It is, hold on just 1 second. We're having a moment. Oh, I see the poll question came up. Yes. Let me go back, sorry. The first poll question is, how many of you have a company mission statement? So how many of you listening there on the phones today actually have a company mission statement? And those of you who are listening to this after the actual time of the webinar, if it's committed to paper and you've done this work at some time, answer yes. If you haven't, answer no. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds here to answer that.
Jackie, it looks like 78% say they do have a company mission statement, 22% do not.
Excellent. That is exactly what I expected, and I would think that I was going to guess 80, so I think I'm pretty close to that. All right, so my second question is going to be this. Okay. How many of you can recite this right now? So you say that you have, so the 78% of you that have one, those 22% that don't have to recite it. But if you have a mission statement, could you recite it right now? If you were sitting next to me at lunch and I said, so what's the mission of your company? Give me a quick yes or no on those.
And for this question, Jackie, 61% said they could not recite their statement and 39% say they can.
Okay. That is very typical. That is the norm, that more people cannot recite it than can. So for those of you that can, yay. I'm very happy for you and excited. For those of you that can't, we're going to work a little bit on that. And even for those of you that can, there is some work that we can do to help it permeate beyond your being able to recite it. Third question is, can every employee recite your statement? So if I sat down with all your employees, or if I sent out a quick little survey and said, what's the mission of your company? How many of your employees do you think could recite it? Yes, could they all do it? Or no, could they not?
Jackie, 95% say their employees cannot recite their statement. 5% say they can.
Okay. Wow. Well, it kind of gives you an idea of where we are in terms of the work that's been done to create mission statements and the amount of time and energy that's been put into these, and the time that we place in creating posters and sharing them with our employees. If it is not part of your DNA, if it is not part of what you live and breathe on a daily basis, if it's not something that every employee comes to the office connected with, then it may be because your mission statement might be, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, so this is a little tongue-in-cheek, so kind of work with me here, but your mission statement may look like this. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to use the arrows. All right. So our mission is to create consistent value for our customers and supply chain partners that will maximize shareholder value and long-term earnings growth. We will do this by managing our business with integrity and the highest ethical standards while acting in a socially responsible manner with particular emphasis on the well-being of our teammates and the communities we serve. Okay, yours might not be quite that crazy, but if you do an online search and just start with Fortune 100 companies, you can go to Fortune 500 companies. I also encourage you to look within your own industry. Look at your competitors. Look at those companies that you admire, and go onto their websites and see if you can find what they stand for. And although all mission statements are not necessarily public or not necessarily meant to be, many post them on there, and you will find a plethora of mission statements that actually look like this. And this is a real, no company to be announced whose it is. This is a real mission statement. So most people in answer to this say, what? I've had it on the screen for probably 30 seconds while I read through it and talked about it. Could any of you, and this is just answering to yourself, could any of you tell me what that said? I have said it 60, 70 times, and I could not tell you what it said. Something about taking care of everybody in the world and our employees, and everybody's happy. In fact, let me share with you very quickly a gentleman named James Coonan in January of 2002 in the New York Times did an article on Enron, and you guys may have heard all about Enron values and so forth, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. But part of their the mission statement says, as a partner in the communities in which we operate, Enron believes it has a responsibility to conduct itself according to certain basic principles. And then they lead into their values. And so it can be on your wall, but is it actually lived inside of your organization? Too many companies may use this particular formula. And again, when you're looking out there online, see if you can apply this formula to most of the mission statements that you see. And this is done by the Marketunist, copywritten, and we have permission to use it. Ye olde mission statement, guided by a relentless, a heartfelt adjective, focus on cliche quality, another cliche, and another cliche. We will strive to, long-winded phrase, delivering big aspirational word to our vague group. It feels a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but so many mission statements look like this, and they're created with a formula. Now, I would imagine most Vistage members and people on this webinar are way past this, and it may seem a little rudimentary and condescending to you, and I do not mean it in that form or fashion in any way. I'm just doing it as an observation. So I know you guys are beyond this, or you're thinking in a much broader way, but unfortunately in today's market, too many people are stuck in this spot right here. Because even if this is not the way your mission statement was created, let me ask you this question. How many of your employees rush into the office every morning and say, how can I create consistent value for our customers and supply chain partners that will maximize shareholder value and long-term earnings growth today? Doesn't happen. That is not what motivates people to come into your office every day or to work for you, provide services to you, or buy from you. If you absolutely scrutinize your mission statement from that vantage point, you will come up with some different ideas. It doesn't happen because that is not what's driving people to come to companies nor stay. And if you were to take a guess at what the #1 reason why employees stay with a company, you might guess things that we hear when we do this as a in front of audiences, and they will say, oh, because we have great people, or oh, we have wonderful benefits, or they are moving forward in their careers, they are getting a raise, that it's about money, that it's about position. But actually, the #1 reason that employees stay with a company is a desire to contribute to something they believe in and to make a difference. Now that is incredibly powerful. That sounds very simple on the surface, but when you think about a desire, so this is really emotional, to contribute to something they believe in. This is not intellectual. This is not academic. A belief is very foundational. It's very emotional. And to make a difference. Everyone wants to leave at the end of the day feeling like they matter, like they've moved the needle, like they have done something of significance. And the good news is that there is something you can do about creating this in your company. So if the #1 reason is to for people to want to make a difference and to add something of value and connect with what they believe in, and we've written mission statements, what is missing from this equation? What is it that we could do to actually start to activate what we care for and stand for inside of our companies? And the way that we like to phrase this is that you are missing the bookends. Now, many of you have heard the word purpose, your why. You might have read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. One of my colleagues here at the office was at an event last night, and she was talking about the work that we do here at Savage, and they said, oh, yeah, it's all that purpose stuff. That's just all in vogue right now. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah, everybody has to have one. And she was like, no, it is not. That's not what it's about. So although you may have heard the term, we're going to anchor it for you a little bit here and give you some context for not only what that means, but how it connects with your mission, vision, and values. And the other end of the bookend is behaviors. How do you behave in a way that supports all the rhetoric that led up to this? What are your actions like? What is it day-to-day behaviors like inside of your company, and do all these things lock up? So let me share with you a couple of definitions of how we use these terms. And we are not saying these are definitive definitions. This is the way Savage describes them. so that we can put them together in context where they feed off of each other and they link together. So we say purpose is, why would anyone choose to associate with your brand? Work for you, buy from you, provide services to you, or have you in the community? Why would anyone say, this is a company I want to be connected with in some way, shape, or form? So if most of you have mission, vision, and values, how do you make them inspiring and actionable? The mission is the way we describe it here, is how you differentiate through the way you deliver on your purpose. So purpose is really your why. It is the good that you want to do in the world. It's what you want to give, not what you want to get, and it's very broad. It is not ownable, and it is usually a little bit of an altruistic kind of statement. And let me go back one slide and go over that with you very quickly. If any of you think about the the purpose of MD Anderson hospitals, and I ask this question and most people say to cure cancer, to eradicate cancer, to get rid of cancer. Yes. My next question is, are they the only company that wants to do this, the only organization, the only healthcare institution that's interested in eradicating cancer? Well, absolutely not. They don't own it. When you get to your mission, this is how you differentiate, through the way that you deliver on your purpose. So how are you serving this through your organization in a way that sets you apart? What is it that you are doing day in and day out? Your mission is actually alive and being enacted in your company every day. What is it that you're doing that differentiates you? Then we move on to the vision, which is a vivid picture of where you're headed to motivate others to take the journey with you. Excuse me. This is, some people call it the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. This is looking several years down the road and saying, how would I motivate people to go here with me? Do you see this kind of a world? Do you want to make this difference in the world? Do you see our efforts leading us here? And vision is a really important part of this, because this is the piece that you get people to really emotionally connect with in terms of, so if I said MD Anderson, I'm about curing cancer, the way that we do it is through, we have multiple touch points, and we're dealing with all different kinds of cancer, and we have all sorts of specialists. Whatever it is in that part of our mission that differentiates us, this vision is, we see a world in which no one has to die of cancer. So you can think of that as very motivating to a prospective employee or to a patient or anybody else to say, is that the kind of world that you want? Yes, absolutely. I want to be part of your team in getting there. Then your values are your unwavering principles that are necessary to infiltrate your culture with purpose. What are those unwavering values that must exist in your organization to bring about those first three? To align you with your purpose, to differentiate you through your mission, to take you to your vision. What is it that has to exist inside of your company? And then the last one is your behaviors, and this is where the rubber meets the road. This is who you demonstrate yourselves to be through your actions. Think about this. Everything up until this point is words. This is all rhetoric. You've written your purpose down and your mission and your vision and your values, and they sound lovely, and you've gotten them all connected, and they all feed off of each other. But if you do not behave in a way that is supportive of every one of those phrases, they fall flat. This is where your behaviors match your words. This is where you're walking the talk. And this is where we see so many organizations struggle, because they come up with some very noble purposes and they're supported with great values, but they do not have the actions set in place to make those come to life. Put all together, we call this your focus. Where's your company focused? What do you believe in? How do you differentiate? Where are you headed? What do you stand for? And how do you behave? All of that comes together. Earlier I mentioned Enron, and many of you may have heard this before, but Enron stated on their website when they were alive, as a global corporate citizen, Enron intends to conduct itself in accordance with our 4 values: respect, integrity, communication, and excellence. And under respect, they said, we treat others as we would like to be treated. Okay, fairly golden rule-esque, not very out there or bizarre, but they continued to say, we do not tolerate abusive or disrespectful treatment. Ruthless, callousness, and arrogance do not belong here. Now, I've never really heard anybody take their values down to that kind of level or talk about what they don't want, which is very interesting. And if you look at how most of these mission, vision, and values are articulated, people will say things like, we want to maintain the highest ethical standards and treat our employees with respect, and we encourage teamwork, and we make quality, wonderful products, and we respect the environment. And the question to that is, okay, so as opposed to we make fair to middle and we have fair to middle and ethical standards, and we treat our employees like old shoes, and we are big on backstabbing, and we make shoddy products, and guess what? We lay waste to the environment. But other than that, we're making lots of money. So part of that, and that last little piece right there, I do want to recredit again James Coonan for his article in the New York Times in 2002, which shows this is not new rhetoric. But I think what's exciting here is we're going to talk to you a little bit, and I'm going to share some exercises at the end of this that you can use today, that you can take into your companies today. One of them takes 5 minutes. The other 3 are a little bit more involved. And so we'll go through those. But first of all, you might say, this is all really great, Jackie, but you don't know what I'm dealing with. You don't understand. I've got, if I'm a public company, I'm dealing with shareholders and stock prices and market expectations. If I'm not, I'm dealing with just growth and profits and keeping my organization viable every day. Well, on top of that, I'm going to quote to you 4 very quick things that are also adding to the stress of what you're dealing with. That only 30% of your employees are fully engaged. According to Gallup, they do this poll every year. This number fluctuates slightly, but that means 70% of the people in your company are showing up and marking time and waiting for something better to come along. Only 18% of employees trust their leaders to tell the truth when the stakes are high. This is according to the Edelman Trust Barometer that they do every year. Again, this number fluctuates, but that's a pretty sad number. And less than that, only 14% know the strategy of their company. This is according to the Metis Group. They do a performance management research, and this is one of the statistics they pulled out. So you may know your strategy, but does everybody working for you know why they are doing what they're doing? And I think also alarming is that it costs 20% of a person's salary to replace them, according to the Center for American Progress. So how do you get the right people to begin with, and how do you build your culture to deliver on something valuable and unifiable and quantifiable so that you can be successful? Because here's the good news. Okay, I've labored you with some bad news of where we are and set the stage, which may look a little depressing. But guess what? Companies devoted to a larger purpose than just maximizing profits outperform the S&P 500 by 9 to 1. Yes, there is a financial component to this. Back when you were worrying about growth and profits and just keeping your company running, this is the way to realize greater growth and profits. Raj Sisodia and some of his cohorts wrote a book called Firms of Endearment. And that book was written probably a decade ago. And they followed great companies. They did about 10 years of research to look at who are the companies that people want to work for. Who are the companies that are just doing incredibly well, both in their workforce, their customers love them, and they're making great profits. Who are they and what are they doing? And they found that these companies that had a great purpose are actually doing this wonderful financial performance as well. And I'm going to share a quick slide with you. I just want you to think through this. Not that these are all purposeful companies, but I want to show you what a purpose message looks like. Some of these call it mission, and it may morph or change, but if you could look at these 5 companies here, or organizations, TED Talks, TOMS, Coca-Cola, GE, and Johnson & Johnson, I would imagine it would be very easy for you to match those up with the phrases to the left. Now, for one, they're in very different industries, so that might make it fairly easy. But you can even do this inside of an industry with a company that has a very strong purpose and those that don't. They stand out. It is just very easy. It's as easy as taking these and connecting them with the right phrase. Because the best news to me, and the thing that I really love to resonate on, is that purpose drives performance and performance drives profit, in that order. Very quickly, I'm going to take you through the way that Savage kind of organizes and structures this, and then I'll share an example with you, and then we will go into a couple of the exercises that we have set up to go through today. So first of all, I want to share with you what this looks like in action. This is a landscape architecture company called TBG Partners. They are in Texas and in Florida, and I think in Tennessee as well now, and have branched out and been growing at a great clip. Their purpose is, we believe in making the earth a more memorable place. I think one of the most critical things to notice here is it doesn't say anything about what they do. There is no what in here. This is why they exist. We exist to make Earth a more memorable place. It's a very strong purpose, and it has a good feeling to it. All right, well, how do they connect this? What does their mission look like? So their mission, again, how they differentiate, is we create places that encourage the unfolding of life stories. Now, in working in their design area where they're looking at a piece of land and going to turn it into a park or an activity place for families, they will look at how are we going to encourage the unfolding of life stories here? What are the stories that are going to be created? What kinds of experiences will people have? Solitary experiences or group experiences? And now they look at their vision. So where are we going with this? We partner with other visionaries, other people who see this kind of world, to help the world appreciate the value of outdoor places and the impact they have on people's lives. I think the last portion of that is very critical, because if you start looking at it, this is the piece that motivates others to take the journey with you. Do you want to help the world appreciate the value of outdoor places and the impact they have on people's lives? Imagine using that as an interview question. You will start looking and hiring people for attitude more than aptitude, for what they believe in and care about, because skills are teachable, attitudes are not. And their values and behaviors line up like this. They have 3 values: be authentic, be inquisitive, be inclusive. And you can see, I won't read those to you, but you can see underneath there how the behaviors are lined up underneath each one of these. That it's not just be inclusive, it's like how are we inclusive at TBG? These are the things that we do to make ourselves inclusive. Hopefully that helps you get a little bit of a feel for how this goes together. And I'm going to share with you a quick story about what this looks like in action with my favorite poster child for purpose, which is Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines started with purpose in the 70s, and they still have it today. In fact, I was flying about a month ago, and in their magazine online, Gary Kelly, now the CEO, always has a letter, and they talk about all kinds of things. And although purpose is not something that's overt and necessarily stated on a website or a public phrase, he actually alluded to, in the middle of his article, the original purpose of Southwest Airlines, which is to democratize the skies, to make it easier to fly. Not the only people interested in doing that, but that is what they stand for. So several years ago, when Herb Kelleher was still the CEO of the airline, a woman who flew the airline frequently wrote a letter to customer relations every time she flew. And her letters were always a complaint. I don't like the way you load the planes. It's just so horrible standing in those lines. I just feel like a cattle call. Next letter. I don't like it that you just throw peanuts at us. Why don't you serve us some nice food or something? That just makes me feel like I'm at the circus. Next letter. I don't like the way your flight attendants make the announcements and sing them or make them funny. This is life and death up here in the air. It should be serious. And on and on and on. The final letter that she wrote, the customer relations group was tired of reading them. So they bumped it up to Herb Kelleher at the time and said, boss, this one's for you. And Mr. Kelleher did not need to gather a committee, spend hours thinking about it, or wonder what he was going to do with this particular passenger. He very quickly wrote her a 4-word letter in response to all of her complaints. And it was this: Dear Miss Crabapple, we will miss you. Love, Herb. The point of this story is that's not their customer. That is not the kind of person that actually believes in what Southwest stands for. He was very clear and okay with saying, please don't fly us anymore. Go fly someone else and tell them what you think about their airline. We will miss you. It is a wonderful demonstration about what it looks like when you're actually living a purpose and you're able to, in a few short minutes, know this is not my customer, this is not my employee, this one is, and this one is. It gives you a definitive way to start to run your business with more clarity and pulling groups of people together. So let's look at how this goes together in the way we do this in Savage, because you might be wondering, what is my purpose? And if we have one, is it good or not? And is it working or not? So we do this focus work, which is generally a two-day full-day sessions with the C-suite or the executive group of a company. And the time in between those sessions is just as important as the sessions themselves, because we are helping you uncover. This stuff is not that it doesn't exist, but we're helping you uncover your purpose, mission, vision, values, and behaviors. We are peeling the onion back and looking at what's the original seed. And if you could do this expertly yourselves, you might have done this already, and yay if you have. I want to know you because I respect and love everyone who has done this work. And if you have not, it is not that it's not there. It's just that you need some outside-in perspective to kind of help you look at this in a new and different way and pull away the rhetoric that you are so used to using that sounds like everyone else's, and help you dig down and articulate things in a way that are uniquely yours. Let me very quickly tell you the 3 values of Southwest Airlines: a warrior spirit, a servant's heart, and a fun-loving attitude. Now, I defy any other airline on the planet to own those. They are unique and ownable to Southwest Airlines. They very quickly describe what that culture is like, and it is very easy to take those values and behaviors and measure people against them and evaluate them against them. So this first work is actually this really important setting the stage, but you're not done there. So those of you who have done this work, yay, applause. And here's what comes next, is the filter, where you are actually looking at all aspects of your organization to see if you already are these things that you've described, or if you still need places to work. How much of it is real, and how much of it is aspirational? So you're aligning your vision of where you see yourself going in a very specific way. You are aligning your people inside and outside your company, suppliers, employees, customers, whatever those are for you. And you are aligning your priorities. And I want to say one thing right here very quickly, that if you take nothing else away from this entire webinar, if you're still with me, I would like you to write this one thing down, because this is where so many companies fall off in this process. They get excited about it and they do the purpose work and they articulate these phrases and they uncover what they stand for, and then they are stuck with, how do I bring it to life? So I would like you to write this down, is that your purpose and priorities must be friends. That if those are not connected, if you are saying one thing, but your priorities are all around growth and profits and a completely different tactics and strategy on one side, then you are not going to be able to align with what you stand for and make it happen. So this is the place that I find most companies fall away from bringing it to life, is their priorities are not aligned with their purpose. And then the final piece, which is the piece that most people love to jump to, which is, how do we tell the world? How do we tell all of our employees and everyone else? Shaping our story, sharing our story, and living it. But if you miss this blue section here, if you miss the piece in the middle, and you just jump from purpose to telling everyone what it is, you have not done the hard work of figuring out where you're connected and where you're not, so that the reality of experiencing your company matches up. Hopefully you have stayed here with me through this and it is making sense to you. I want to, we're about 40 minutes in here, and I'm going to set up these next couple of exercises that I'm going to give you, these worksheets that I'm going to share with you, and then we'll go into some questions and answers. And I'm not going to go through these in great depth, but I'm just going to give you an overview of what they are. They will be in the PowerPoint, and if at any time you would like to work through these, you're welcome to email me, call me on the phone. I'm happy to give you some more context behind them. So does your management team currently know what you stand for? Many of you in the beginning of this webinar answered that you had a mission and that you know what it is and you could recite it. We dropped way off when it was, could everyone in your company recite it? I'm going to share with you an exercise that we call 5 questions in 5 minutes. And guess what? It takes 5 minutes. It is very simple in its appearance. It is very profound in what it tells you about your company. So here's the setup. You'll gather your executive team or your leadership group or whoever you want, and it shouldn't be too large a group. I mean, you don't want to do this with dozens of people. You're really going to look at your top probably 6 to 15 people in your organization, depending on your size, or 2 people if that's where you are. And you're going to give this group 5 minutes to answer 5 key questions. At the end, people don't have to write their names on there, so you don't know who said what. Let it be anonymous so people feel very comfortable with being candid with their answers. And you're going to compare them to see where you are. What's your starting place? Do you have a noble, greater purpose, or are you just about growth and profits? Here's the questions. Number 1, what is the one guiding principle that influences all of our company's critical decisions? What is the one that influences all? Second question, what is the main purpose our company serves? Serves is a very important word there. Number 3, in what ways does our company behave differently than any other business in our field? Number 4, what % of our employees do we believe know what our organization stands for? And the final question will have a sliding scale in terms of who you include in your stakeholders, but it says, how are stakeholders prioritized at our company? So if you're not public, you can drop out shareholders, but employees, clients, suppliers, community, board of directors, whichever apply to your company, list those and ask people to prioritize them 1 through 5 or 6, whatever those numbers are, in terms of the importance to your company. It is very telling. I would encourage you to do this yourself and with your with that executive group or leadership team, and see where you are. And the one thing that we love to do when we do this work with companies is we will go back in a year and do this 5-minute exercise again to see if you get different answers. Because here's the thing, if you guys do this, any one of you out there listening to this, and everybody on your team answers all of these identically, please call me instantly, email me. I will call you back on the spot because I want to know you. You know, Savage loves companies who are like-minded, and we want to learn from other organizations as well. So if you are just knocking this out of the park, please let us know who you are and how you're doing it, because we want to learn from you. The final thing I'm going to share with you is, I said that you have focus, but the work of filter is critical. These are 3 exercises that I would encourage you to take and spend a considerable amount of time doing. I'm just going to flash them up here for you and give you a brief overview. But the first one is, in filter, I talked about this vision alignment piece. Now, a wonderful gentleman named Cameron Herold wrote a book called Painted Picture, and he does an incredible job of describing how you can write a vision that is textural, that is sensory, that is detailed, that really pulls people in with very specific items to let them know what this future looks like. And in fact, if any of you care, at some point I would love to share a story with you about a painted vision that was done at a company that landed them an article in the New York Times from a person who had just joined the organization, created the connection to make that happen. And it happened through them doing a painted vision. So some of the areas you're going to look at here is what is your leadership team doing specifically? Who's on that team? What do they care about? Are they, have they written a book? Are they searching for new territories to expand into? Are they inventive in creating new ideas? What kind of customer and client relationships are you having? What's your work environment like? What does it feel like to walk in your front door or into your company? Does it feel exciting and energetic? Is it quiet and somber? Is it intellectual? What is that experience like? What are people feeling? How are you communicating? What are your operations like? What are your sales and marketing? Have you expanded your products and services, and in what way? There are a lot of questions here, but I encourage you to take some time and take a look at some of Cameron Herold's work so that you can get a better idea of how all this comes together. Because this gives not only you as the leader of an organization, but everyone that works for you a very vivid picture of what you're working toward, and very tangible events and items that they can latch onto to help you move forward and bring them into existence. Second exercise is called people alignment, and there are 6 boxes here on the right to represent values. Now, you may already have your values, and you may have 2, you may have 4, you may have 10. This is not to say you should have 6. This is just to get you started on this exercise. In fact, Google has 10 things we know to be true, and they're wonderful. Most of you probably know them. I encourage you to read them if you haven't. And the Container Store has 6 foundational principles, which are also amazing. But if you have values, write them in the boxes and then start looking underneath there to what behaviors are necessary to bring those to life. In what way do you see those happening in your organization? And sometimes it's helpful in this one to think about an ideal employee, somebody that you admire, that really gets your company, that is just doing amazing work. And what are their behaviors? What are they like every day? What are they like around other people? How are they in representing your brand? And that can kind of help you to go through that exercise. And the final one is priorities alignment. This is the thing I said earlier. Purpose and priorities must be friends. This is where you look at 6 critical areas of your company and figure out where are we already this and where do we have work to do. So your structure, your leadership, your culture, products and services, people, processes, and work processes. What are we already doing that supports all of our focus phrases, and where do we need to improve and shore up? I encourage you to look at the organizational charts of both Disney and Apple. They are circles. They are not your regular tree that has everybody leading off to some other group. They're actually circles where people are connected in interesting ways. So break yourself out of the paradigms of the way that you are currently maybe thinking about the way businesses are structured or how your products and services should be offered, and look at new opportunities here. All right, I have been talking for 47 minutes here, and I said I wanted to give some time at the end. So I want you to think about how to get your mission statement off of your wall and into your company. And hopefully I have given you some ideas and some challenges and some potential benefits and a peek at some of the hard work necessary for building a powerful, enviable, attractive, sustainable brand. And this journey starts with looking at what you are currently articulating as your mission. So Bill, hopefully you've gotten a couple of questions along the way if I haven't talked too quickly or, or left anybody behind or too slowly. I don't know. It could have been one or the other.
No, we have some questions. Thank you very much. It was very well articulated. We have a first question is, should a mission statement be targeted more for an external or internal audience, and why?
That's an excellent question. And I like to think of mission statements as being internal. They inform your external communications. So your mission statement would really be looking at it for how do you align your culture and how do you get your internal organization moving along with you at a belief level, and at how you actually, if we've used our definition of mission, how you differentiate in the way that you are operating. But it's not necessarily a public phrase. Now that's not to say that you can't put it on your website. People do, and it can be very powerful. So if you're very proud about it and committed to it and you want to put it out there and you want to share it, great. But it usually does not stand alone. It should inform your communications. It should help you with your marketing and communications, internal and external communications, to dig a little deeper about your organization.
Excellent. We had another question come in, Jackie. Why does it matter if the employees can recite their mission statement as long as they're living them out loud?
Lovely. Oh, that's great. If they're living them out loud, then applause, yay, wonderful. They don't need to recite it. And I guess I probably used a poor term there in the beginning, and thank you for pointing that out to me. Recite is really a bad word, and I apologize for that. I didn't know any other way to phrase it, but maybe you've given me some insights there. I don't care if anybody recites it. It is not something to spit out verbatim. It's something that lives inside of you. It's part of your DNA. If I asked you to describe your children to me, you would not have to read it off of a piece of paper. You would say, oh my gosh, this one is so energetic and crazy and wall bouncing, we had to put him in gymnastics. And this one just wants to read books all the time. It is not a phrase or a grouping of words that you have memorized, but it's something that you believe in and you're able to articulate it. So maybe I should have said how many of your employees can express or articulate your mission, because everyone should do it in their own way with their own nuances. No two people at Savage will tell you our purpose and our mission and our vision in exactly the same way, and that's wonderful. They will tell you what it means to them, but the intention of it is unified. Hope that helps.
That really does help. Thank you. Here's another question. Should our employee base be surveyed to come up with our core values and missions?
Wow, okay. I do hear this one a lot. And I have two answers to that. If you are an organization that is already very purpose-led and your values are evident in every single employee every day, then the answer might be yes. In fact, that's the way that Zappos did it. Zappos was in existence for several years, and they went out to their employees and said, what do you think we stand for? What are our values? And they got some very good and robust answers and some great dialogue. I have not found thus far, and we at Savage in working with companies, that that is usually productive, because I call it like the parents establishing the rules for a family. You decide what your family will and won't tolerate and what you stand for, and then you let everyone else in the family layer in on how you actually express it and how it shows up. So if in your family you do not tolerate, back talk or anybody being rude to someone else, then you can let the family decide where is the sliding scale on that. And we find most productive when an executive team comes up with this, but then in the expression of sharing it with employees, is able to get feedback, tweak it, put nuances in, and actually let those voices start to infiltrate into communications and the way that it's expressed.
Here's another one. It seems like in this day and age, 2 words is better than a sentence. A brevity is the order of the day. Do you see this as a better way to create a mission or vision statement than the typical sentence?
I'm going to tell you this. Some of those who know me may laugh at this, but one of my favorite quotes is, I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. And that is, if you can write your purpose in 2 words, good on you. Go for it. Brevity is fabulous because people can relate so much better to a short grouping of words. To democratize these skies is 4 words. It's one of my favorite purposes I've ever heard. It is exactly what that airline stands for. If you can do it in 2, name that tune. I can name that tune in 2 notes. Brevity is just golden in expressing these statements. So whoever asked this question, if you're able to do that, please let me know what works for you, because we are constantly trying to edit and pull words out of purpose statements to make them more clear and direct.
Terrific. If you have a successful company but want to rally your troops to a higher purpose, should you completely rewrite your why statement or authentic purpose, or merely tweak it a bit?
I think that depends on how you think it's working. Because if you say you want to rally your troops to a higher purpose, may mean that they need some rallying. And tweaking might be fine as long as it's what you stand for as a company and you have great clarity about it, but it's just not being dispersed, or people aren't getting it, or you might not have articulated in a way that they understand it. You may just need to dig deeper and simplify, like we said in the previous answer, if you can get it down to something very simple. So rally people, sometimes a rally cry might need to be something that's a little overt and gives them a jolt. And it's not that you are changing the intention of it. It's just that you might be looking at it from a different vantage point about how it's being perceived by other people.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Jackie Dryden. You've done a terrific job and brought us a lot of tremendous information. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you very much for your time, and I hope this was helpful. I really appreciated being with you.
Join us for a future webinar, Friday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, for a business owner's guide to asset protection and succession planning with Hillel Presser. You won't want to miss this one. Again, Friday, June 23rd, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of Vistage Worldwide, thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish you continued success.